Good morning. This is Raghu, Assistant Professor of Biotechnology from SR and BGNR Government College. Come on. So today's topics are prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell structures. So we will also have a overview about classification of microorganisms, and then we will study the structure of prokaryotes and eukaryotes in detail. So these are the scientists whose studies played a key role in the identification of cells. So Jacques Janssen in 1595, he made the first microscope by placing two lenses in a tube. He used lenses and first made a microscope. Later in 1665, Robert Hooke made a primitive compound microscope for the identification of objects. Later in 1680, Antony van Leeuwenhoek, he used a monoocular microscope, single lens monoocular high resolution microscope, and he studied the protists. That time they are not mentioned as protists. He studied the microorganisms that are present in pond water. Later Schleiden and Schwann, after development of microscope, Schleiden and Schwann in 1838 and 39 in the year, they have given cell theory. They have proposed cell theory. Schleiden and Theodor Schwann. So according to cell theory of Schleiden and Schwann, cells, living organisms are composed of cells. Cell is the unit of life, and these cells are obtained from pre-existing cells. So generally this statement was given by Rudolf Virchow in the year 1855, which is included in the cell theory. So all the living organisms are made up of cells. Cell is the basic unit of life, and these cells obtained from pre-existing cells. So these are the principles of cell theory proposed by Theodor Schwann and Schleiden. Non-cellular organisms like virus and viroids and also prions are exception for this cell theory. While coming to the classification of living organisms, Whittaker's 5-kingdom classification is best known for the classification of living organisms. The 5 major kingdoms that are given by Robert H. Whittaker are Monera, Protista, Animalia, Plantae and Fungi. Monera, Protista, Animalia, Plantae and Fungi. He placed all the prokaryotic cell. He placed all the prokaryotes under Monera. So the kingdom Monera contains all prokaryotes. And while coming into eukaryotes, there are unicellular eukaryotes and multicellular eukaryotes. Unicellular eukaryotes like protozoans, amoeba, paramecium, euglena, Those are unicellular eukaryotes. They are placed under protista. And our multicellular organisms again classified into multicellular organisms with cell wall and without cell wall. So without cell wall, the multicellular organisms are animalia. So all the animal cells will come under multicellular organisms. Whereas living organisms with cell wall, that means eukaryotic multicellular organisms with cell wall. So those are fungi and plantae. So both fungi and plantae, they contain multicellular structures with cell wall. The major difference between fungi and plantae are fungi does not perform photosynthesis, they are saprophytic or heterotrophic, whereas plantae they can perform the process of photosynthesis. So that is the major difference. So we take as 5 kingdom classification: Monera, Protista, Animalia, Plantae and fungi are the major kingdoms. So this schematic representations has given the entire classification of living organisms into 5 kingdoms. So all the prokaryotes are placed in Monera. So Monera is a kingdom which contains all the prokaryotic cells. If you classify these prokaryotic cells, these prokaryotes are of two types: archaebacteria and eubacteria. So all the bacteria are called as prokaryotes. So pronucleus, before nucleus. So there won't be any nucleus in the prokaryotic cells. So all the bacterial cells which does not contain a nucleus, distinct nucleus, they are placed under Monera. The bacteria, these bacteria are of two types: eubacteria and archaebacteria. So archaebacteria are called as ancient bacteria or first lived bacteria. That means the bacteria that appeared for the first time on earth after the formation of earth. So you can clearly see what are the differences between archaebacteria and eubacteria. So extreme environments means it is the difference of archaebacteria with that of eubacteria. So you can see the 3 columns there: cell type, that is for archaebacteria it is prokaryotic, and eubacteria also it is prokaryotic. Cell wall, so archaebacteria they does not contain any peptidoglycan. So presence of peptidoglycan is the characteristic feature of the prokaryotic cell. But the ancient bacteria, archaebacteria, they does not contain peptidoglycan. But their membrane lipids contain either. So generally ester linkages are present in the membrane lipids. But due to the presence of either linkages in the membrane lipids, they can withstand high extreme temperatures, that is more than 100 degrees centigrade, because of this either linkages in the membrane lipids. That means the plasma membrane contain lipids with either linkages. During protein synthesis, archaebacteria, the starting amino acid will be methionine like eukaryotes, but it is formal methionine in eubacteria. So bacteria are sensitive to antibiotics, whereas archaebacteria they are not sensitive to antibiotics. They does not even take up the antibiotic inside the cell. And DNA organization, you can see only DNA in the cytosol of the prokaryotic cell, that we will see in the upcoming slides. But the DNA is associated with histones in archaebacteria. And while coming to the conditions they live, the archaebacteria will live in extreme climatic conditions. That means high temperatures, thermophilic bacteria, methane releasing bacteria, Methanococcus bacteria, low pH, acidophiles, the bacteria that are living in the acidic conditions, high salt concentration. So these are the extreme conditions where archaebacteria tend to live during the formation of earth. Whereas the U bacteria, they live at normal temperatures ranging from 0 to 45 degrees, like psychrophiles 0 to 15 degrees, mesophiles 15 to 37 degrees, and these halophiles, extreme thermophiles will come under archaebacteria. So that is the major difference between archaebacteria and eubacteria. So this slide shows the endosymbiotic theory and the evolution of eukaryotic cells. The endosymbiotic theory and evolution of eukaryotic cells. So prokaryotes once endosymbiotically engulfed aerobic bacteria. That aerobic bacteria is converted into mitochondria in the animal cell. That aerobic bacteria, it is converted into mitochondria in the animal cell. Whereas further, this bacteria engulfed cyanobacteria, where the plant cell has evolved with mitochondria as well as chloroplast. You can clearly see on the top, prokaryote engulfed aerobic bacteria that is converted into mitochondria and animal cell evolved, and cyanobacteria, free living photosynthetic bacteria are called as cyanobacteria, that is also engulfed, that is changed into chloroplast. So which led to evolution of plant cell. So this is endosymbiosis. That means an organism living in another organism, there will be mutual beneficiation. So during the evolutionary process, this prokaryotic cell is converted into eukaryotic cell, animal cell and plant cell with the help of aerobic bacteria and cyanobacteria. So this is endosymbiotic theory. So while coming into the classification of Monera by Burgess Manual of Systemic Classification, Burgess is a scientist who classified this Monera kingdom. So he classified into 4 major groups: gram-negative bacteria, also called as gracilicutes. These will be having thin cell walls. Gram-positive bacteria, also called as firmicutes. These will be having thicker cell walls. Cell wall lacking bacteria, that is ternicutes or molicutes. So ternicutes also called as molicutes. They does not contain any cell walls. Mycoplasmas will come under this cell wall less bacteria. Archaebacteria, mensodicutes, unusual cell walls with either linkages in the membrane lipids. Archaebacteria, they will come under mensodicutes. So this is the 4-way classification, also called as Burgess Manual of Systemic Classification of Bacteria: gram-positive, gram-negative, cell wall lacking bacteria and archaebacteria. So we have all these cell wall lacking bacteria, gram-positive, gram-negative bacteria will come under eubacteria. Archaebacteria is a separate bacteria, since it is showing some extreme characters which are mentioned in the previous slides. So this is the general structure of a prokaryotic cell. So simple representation: nucleus is present, but it is not nucleus, it is only DNA, hence it is called as prokaryote, prokaryon before nucleus. So the place where DNA is present is called as nucleoid. It is called as nucleoid, not nucleus, nucleoid. So DNA is present in the cytosol. You can see the free floating ribosomes also. So in transcription and translation, we have clearly seen the role of this DNA that is present in the cytosol. And you can clearly see the flagellum, which plays an important role in the movement of bacteria. You can clearly see the plasma membrane and also cell wall. which is called as peptidoglycan. That we will see the difference between gram positive and gram negative bacteria. So you can clearly see the peptidoglycan layer, that is the cell wall, also called as bacterial cell wall, and pili are also present. So this is the simple structure of prokaryotic cell. A DNA in the cytoplasm, which is called as nucleoid, plasma membrane, peptidoglycan cell wall, ribosomes, flagella and pili. So the peptidoglycan in the prokaryotic cell, it is made up of NAG and NAM units, N-acetyl-D-glucosamine and N-acetyl-muramic acid with beta-1,4 linkages. So NAG and NAM units are the major constituents of the peptidoglycan, which are linked with beta-1,4 linkages, and the pentaglycine bridges are present in between the NAG and NAM units. So that means a pentaglycine cross linkage is present in between the chains of NAG and NAM units. So NAG and NAM units are present in the form of chains, and these chains are linked with the help of pentaglycine cross links. So generally you can observe for each NAM there are 4 amino acids attached: alanine, glutamic acid, lysine and alanine. To the same units in the adjacent chain, pentaglycine linkages will be present. So that is NAG and NAM units, pentaglycine bridge, and the 4 amino acids that are attached to the N-acetyl-muramic acid. So this is the peptidoglycan that is present in the bacteria. You can clearly see the difference between gram positive and gram negative bacterial cell wall. So the left extreme portion will be of gram positive bacteria, and towards right it is gram negative bacteria. You can see the gram positive peptidoglycan, it is very thicker. So it is abundantly present in the gram positive bacteria. It occupies 40% of the cell layers. It occupies about 40% of the cell layers. So inside the peptidoglycan there are teichoic acids. If the teichoic acids are emerging from plasma membrane or periplasmic space, they are called as lipoteichoic acids. If they are present only on the peptidoglycan or emerging from peptidoglycan, then it is called as teichoic acids. So teichoic acids are completely absent in the gram negative bacteria. Teichoic acids are present only in the gram positive bacteria. You can see the plasma membrane on the top, there is periplasmic space, and if you clearly see the peptidoglycan layer, it is 40% in the gram positive bacteria, whereas it is only 5 to 10% in gram negative bacteria. And another difference is teichoic acids are present only in gram positive bacteria. Teichoic acids are absent in gram negative bacteria. You can see special type of lipoproteins called as bronze lipoproteins in the gram negative bacteria, and an LPS layer, lipopolysaccharide layer with O side chains, oligosaccharide side chains on the LPS layer. And the proteins which are present on lipopolysaccharide layer, LPS layer, are called as porins. This type of porins you can also see on the surface of mitochondria. Since by endosymbiotic theory, it can be a proof that the eukaryotic cell may be emerged from prokaryotic cell. So that is the difference between gram positive, gram negative cell wall. You can clearly see on the left the difference. Peptidoglycan layer difference, 40% in gram positive bacteria, only 5 to 10% in the gram negative bacteria. And LPS layer in gram negative bacteria, absent in gram positive. Teichoic acid present in gram positive, absent in gram negative. So that is the major difference. While coming into the flagella, the major difference you can see in the flagella, The basal position of the flagella of gram-positive bacteria, it contain only S and M rings. S and M rings. Whereas the gram-negative bacteria, along with S and M rings, there is two other rings, that is P and L ring. L for LPS layer, P for peptidoglycan layer. So there are two other rings in gram-negative layer, gram-negative bacteria, L ring and P ring, LPS ring and peptidoglycan ring. S and M rings are common for both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. S ring will be present in periplasmic space. M ring will be in the plasma membrane. So that is another difference of flagella of gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria. So that is about bacteria, bacteria classification, bacterial cell structure, gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria cell structure and their differences. While coming into the fungi, so another class of eukaryotic cells, fungi, multicellular eukaryotes. Sometimes they may be unicellular also. Best example is for multicellular, examples are mushrooms and molds. Unicellular is. So fungi, they cannot prepare their food material. They are not photosynthetic. They are decomposers, heterotrophs, sometimes parasites, saprophytic, etc. They produce spores or reproduce by spores, asexual reproduction, and their body is made up of hyphae. And the cell wall is made up of cellulosic cell wall as well as chitinaceous cell wall. So mostly it will be chitinaceous cell wall, sometimes it will be cellulosic cell wall. So that is about fungi. So the next one is plant cell. So you can clearly see the plant cell. It is a multicellular organisms, plant cell, but it is of tissue level, not organ level. It is will be of tissue level. So plants, at the center of the cell there will be large vacuole which contains minerals, water, 70% of water, and the nucleus is shorter than the vacuole. And the vacuole plays an important role in the storage of nutrients and also minerals in the plant cells. The layer surrounding the vacuole, it is called as tonoplast. It's called as tonoplast. And you can see peroxisomes, Golgi apparatus, nucleolus in the nucleus, nuclear envelope, chloroplast, mitochondria, free ribosomes, ribosomes attached to endoplasmic reticulum, rough ribosomes, plasmodesmata, connections between the adjacent cells are called as plasmodesmata. All you can clearly see in the structure of the plants. A part of that, they contain cell wall, cellulosic cell wall, primary cell wall, secondary cell wall, middle lamellae. So there are three layers in the cell wall. Calcium and magnesium peptides are present in the middle lamellae. Primary and secondary cell wall is made up of lignin, cellulose, hemicellulose, etc. So that is basic plant cell structure. So another important thing is chloroplast, presence of autonomous bodies called as chloroplast, where photosynthesis will happen. You can clearly see the double layered structure, chloroplast, in which thylakoids are present. Stacks of thylakoids are called as granum, singly it is called as grana. You can see lamellae, stroma lamellae. The space present inside the chloroplast is called as stroma, and you can see stroma lamellae connecting the thylakoid membranes. So the major role of chloroplast is photosynthesis. Photosynthesis are divided. Photosynthesis is divided into light reactions and dark reactions. Light reactions occurs in granathylakoids, where ATP and NADPH2 are produced in light reactions. Those ATP and NADPH2 which is produced in light reactions are used for the fixation of CO2 in stroma. That is called as dark reaction, which takes place in the stroma. Hence, photosynthesis is the major function of the chloroplast. So, this chloroplast and presence of cell wall differentiated these plants, cellulosic cell wall, differentiated these plant cells from fungi and other eukaryotic cells. So, that is chloroplast. So, while coming into the eukaryotic cell, you can clearly see the different cell organelles that are present in the eukaryotic cell. So, all these cell organelles are absent in prokaryotic cell, whereas it is present in eukaryotes like plant cell, animal cell, and fungal cells. You can clearly see the nucleus. Inside the nucleus, the DNA, chromatin, in the form of chromosome, and nucleolus inside the nucleus. Nuclear envelope, plasma membrane, endoplasmic reticulum, rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, vacuoles, microfilaments, intermediary filaments, microtubules. All these are all the components of the eukaryotic cells. You can see the function of each and everything mentioned here, and what present inside the eukaryotic cell. So cell wall is completely absent. That will make it differentiated from plant cell. So rest of the cell organelles are all present. So this is eukaryotic cell. So while coming into the plasma membrane structure, Singer and Nichols cell fluid mosaic model is widely accepted model regarding the plasma membrane. You can clearly see the lipid bilayer which are disturbed by proteins and also glycoproteins, cholesterol, normal proteins, peripheral proteins, globular proteins, etc. So this is Singer-Nichols fluid mosaic model. And the membrane fluidity depends upon the composition of the plasma membrane, especially cholesterol as well as the lipids that are present inside the lipid bilayer. So the lipid bilayer is mainly made up of phospholipids, which will be having a polar head glycerol and its tails of hydrocarbons. And these hydrocarbons may be saturated fatty acids or unsaturated fatty acids. And the membranes are more fluid if it contains more unsaturated fatty acids. If you see the plasma membranes of animals living in polar regions and in normal regions, the animals which are living in polar regions will be having more polyunsaturated fatty acids in their membranes. More unsaturated fatty acids in their membranes. So that means at lower temperatures also, if the lipids are more unsaturated, these still remain fluid at lower temperatures. Hence, polar bears contain more unsaturated fatty acids in their membrane, which makes the membrane fluid at lower temperatures. That makes survival more possible for those organisms. In temperate region organisms like us, the membrane fluids they contain saturated fatty acids. there will be less unsaturation in the membrane lipids. So we cannot withstand lower temperatures, that means minus temperatures, since our membrane lipids will not support the climatic conditions. So that is the membrane fluidity, which is based on the composition of the phospholipid bilayer. So next one is endoplasmic reticulum. So you can see the nucleus there. Surrounding the nucleus there will be nuclear envelope, and the structure that is continuous to nucleus, it is called as endoplasmic reticulum. This endoplasmic reticulum is of two types: smooth endoplasmic reticulum and rough endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum, they contain ribosomes attached on the structure with the help of proteins called as ribophorins. So ribophorins are the proteinaceous structure that play an important role in the attachment of ribosomes to the endoplasmic reticulum. So those endoplasmic reticulum which contain ribosomes are called as rough endoplasmic reticulum. Whereas for smooth endoplasmic reticulum, there won't be any ribosomes attached. Endoplasmic reticulum play an important role during the process of protein synthesis and post-translational modifications. So those modifications which occur after the protein synthesis are called as post-translational modifications. So endoplasmic reticulum play an important role in post-translational modifications as well as play an important role in the process of translation. So the process of synthesis of mRNA from DNA is called as transcription. After transcription, the mRNA will enter into the endoplasmic reticulum, and sometimes it synthesizes proteins with the help of ribosomes attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. So those proteins are synthesized in endoplasmic reticulum. They undergo post-translational modification in endoplasmic reticulum also. Whereas smooth endoplasmic reticulum play an important role in lipid metabolism. So that is the major function of the endoplasmic reticulum, which is a structure that is continuous to the nucleus. So another structure is Golgi apparatus. Camillo Golgi has given this Golgi apparatus. It is also called as dictyosome in plants. It is present in the form of cisternae or sacules. You can see the cis phase or trans phase. The trans phase will be facing the plasma membrane, and the cis phase will be facing the endoplasmic reticulum. So those components which are coming, or protein lipid components which are coming from endoplasmic reticulum, they will fuse with the cis part, and after modification and all, they are secreted in the form of secretory vesicles in the transform. From transform, those vesicles will fuse either with plasma membrane or they will form individual lysosomes. So that is the Golgi apparatus. So proteins and lipids, they are modified after synthesis in the Golgi apparatus. So you can see clearly the connection in this slide. Nucleus continues to the nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, rough endoplasmic reticulum. Continues to endoplasmic reticulum, you can see the Golgi apparatus. So the proteins that are synthesized in the endoplasmic reticulum, they are modified in endoplasmic reticulum and further modified in the Golgi complex. And also the lipids that are synthesized in smooth endoplasmic reticulum, they are further modified in the Golgi apparatus, where they will leave the Golgi apparatus and fuse with plasma membrane if they are secretory components. If they are non-secretory, like peroxisomes, lysosomes, they will remain in the cytosol. So that is Golgi and endoplasmic reticulum. So the next one is mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell. You can see it is also double layered membrane, outer membrane and inner membrane, and between outer membrane and inner membrane there will be intermembrane space. And you can see clearly structures called as invaginations. Structures called as invaginations. And the space present inside these structures, it is called as matrix. So on these invaginations, you can clearly see the F1 particles. That is ATP synthase is a structure we will see in the metabolism. ATP synthesis. Those are called as F1 particles or Fernandez-Moron particles, which are nothing but ATP synthase molecules, which play an important role in the process of ATP synthesis. So the invaginations are also called as cristae. On the invaginations, you find the F1 particles, Fernandez-Moron particles, which is also called as ATP synthase. And you can clearly see the DNA, special DNA in the matrix. So mitochondria also contains a special DNA in the cytosol, which synthesizes some proteins needed for the mitochondria. Hence it is called a semi-autonomous organelle. It will synthesize some of its proteins which are necessary for electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation. You can see the functions of this mitochondria. First function is ATP synthesis with the help of ATP synthase by electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation. Apart of that, you can also see fatty acid metabolism, beta oxidation of fatty acids and Krebs cycle, nucleic acid and protein synthesis, pyruvate metabolism. So all these metabolisms in the mitochondria. So that is the structure and function of mitochondria. So next one is lysosomes. Lysosomes. Sometimes some lysosomes are also called as peroxisomes. In some plants they are also called as glyoxysomes. So these lysosomes, they contain hydrolytic enzymes. The pH in lysosomes will be 4 or less than 4. The acidic hydrolytic enzymes are completely present in these lysosomes. These lysosomes play an important role. They may be either secreted in the form of exocytosis or they are engulfed in the form of endocytosis. Any engulfed component that enters the cell will fuse with lysosomes and it will be digested. That process is called as endocytosis. Or sometimes the lysosomes are secreted outside the cell. For example, mucus. Mucus is a lysosomal enzyme. It is secreted by goblet cells of intestinal epithelium. So goblet cells are specialized cells of intestinal epithelium which secretes mucus. So they secrete large amount of lysosomes, that is mucus, by exocytosis. So these lysosomes, they contain large amount of hydrolytic enzymes. So that is about lysosomes, which play an important role in the process of endocytosis and exocytosis. So that is today's topics. Classification of bacteria, 5 kingdom classification, Robert H. Whittaker's classification of bacteria, classification of eukaryotic cells, detailed structure of prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Thank you for patiently listening to the